Hi, everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Wednesday, June the 28th. Race number 7 at Delaware Park. We're going 1.70 miles on the turf. It's a $16,000 claimer for fillies and mares. Let's take a look at this field. Please scan or click the QR code for Race of the Day access on mobile, which includes free formulator past performances. Mike, the number 1 Bramble Bush is our 5-2 morning line. Finished ahead of a couple of these last time out, was wired in a slow-paced race, and just could probably work out a nice trip from the rail.
Yeah, there are things pointing to her in this race, I guess, Dan. She had the rail last time. She got to save a lot of ground, but she did make a run to make it really, really close at the end of that race. I guess if she runs that race back, she's tough in here.
We'll take a look at the Timeform US pace projector. Timeform US believes that this pace is going to be hot. I'm not sure how fast it's going to be. I do think Erin's Enthusiasm is at her very best when she makes the lead. And I think she's just faster than both Brahma Gem and Carol Girl. I think there's actually a chance Erin's Enthusiasm can get to the lead and back down the fractions a bit.
Yeah, I sort of looked at it the same way. I thought the 3 was going to be pretty aggressively ridden here to try to make the front. And I just, listen, I think the 2, Brahma Gem, I think she's a real contender in this race, but I didn't really see her contesting a fast pace.
Bramble Bush made her Delaware debut at this level last time out about 25 days ago. We're going to watch that race. And again, she was wired by a horse on the lead that set a slow pace. She saved ground in mid-pack, and she's going to be gaining late, although this leader is noticeably tiring at the end. All in all, it was a good, solid effort, facing several of the horses she's going to be facing again on Wednesday. I just didn't love this race overall.
I feel the same way about it, Dan. She runs fine in here. All in all, I thought her trip was a pretty good one, as we already talked about. She got to save a lot of ground. There were 2 other horses in that field who were back in here. They didn't run nearly as well as Bramble Bush did that day. She ran fine in there. I guess if she runs that race back, she's tough in here, Dan, but I didn't feel like she was like a total standout or anything.
The number 2 Brahma Gem has won her last 3 races on turf, including this performance against condition claimers in her second start of the year. And she got a very good trip. Pace tracking, ground saving. She's going to get a split turning into the stretch. She's going to have to work inside of the eventual runner-up, but she's game to win. A solid buyer speed figure, career best of 67. Now she'll have to do it against tougher competition, but she's so lightly raced, I'm not sure we've seen her best just yet.
Exactly. I like this performance from her. Yeah, the trip ultimately really worked out for her, but she had to run down the favorite in that race, and she did run that horse down. They put a little bit of distance between themselves and the rest of that field too, Dan. I really liked that performance from her. Back to turf too. I mean, obviously, she just can't stand up at all on the dirt courses, but on turf, she's been good right from the start.
Erin's Enthusiasm is the number 3. She's our expected pace setter, according to Timeform US. And I thought she ran pretty well in New York 3 starts back when able to make the lead. She was just beaten by 2 better horses, the 2 favorites that day, but she kept on trying for third. Last time out, she didn't make the lead. I didn't love the overall race itself at Parks, but I think she's just at her best when she gets to the front, and I think that's what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I thought they would ride her aggressively as well. I'm with you. I thought that she ran okay in that race at Aqueduct 3 starts back. That was against some pretty good horses too. I suppose if she runs that race back in this spot, and if she could make the lead, she could be really tough to beat. Her last 2 races aren't good, but they're just against better horses.
Una Luna is the number 4. She's a 9-time winner. Just never really been a big fan of her. She's going off the Anthony Pecoraro claim, and I couldn't see an excuse last time out at Delaware. She was sitting right off the leader. The pace wasn't very fast. Bramble Bush just outfinished her down to the wire. I just wonder what form she's in right now.
I'm taking the same position that you are, it sounds like, Dan. I mean, she did not run well in that last start. They dropped her in class to this level. She was in that Bramble Bush race. To me, she just didn't run well. Now, I guess you could argue they took her out of her usual style that day. They sort of went forward with her. They were contesting or pressing the pace in that race, and she just got really tired through the stretch. Her prior races, they sit off the pace and make a run, and maybe she's just more comfortable with that, Dan. I mean, she has all kinds of figures that make her really, really tough in this race. I just hated her most recent performance.
The number 5 is One Night Stand, and if you believe the Timeform US pace projector is correct and that this pace will be fast, you might want to consider One Night Stand, who comes out of the Bramble Bush race, but as we've already discussed, it's not like that pace was very fast. This horse came to the outside after racing near the back of the pack, made up a little bit of late ground, might get a different scenario here.
Maybe the race sets up differently for her. I still didn't think she ran well last time. She never got to save any ground, and Bramble Bush did. I mean, if you want to say that made some kind of a difference, I guess that's possible. I just thought that it was kind of a mediocre performance. I didn't like her race 2 back. I didn't like her race 3 back. I just really wonder what kind of form she's in right now.
Big prices in the 6, Madame Rouge, who just doesn't seem like she's in very good form at all. She's been beaten double digits in her last 5 races, including one on turf where she finished behind Erin's Enthusiasm and never picked up her feet. You never want to knock a horse that's going to be a big price, but she's going to have to do a lot more than what we've seen recently.
And you don't like her recent form at all. I mean, there were a couple of wins on the grass if you go back to 2021 and early 2022, and I guess those races would give her some kind of chance, Dan, but she's been in bad form.
I think the 7 Proto Magic's a little bit interesting, stretching out and moving from dirt to turf. I think she can find a spot relatively close to the pace in mid-pack or so, and she's unexposed on turf. She's raced twice on the surface. Once she was 96-1 in an allowance race at Keeneland and probably had no shot from a class perspective. The other, they were sprinting her 5/8 of a mile. Some of her synthetic races are pretty good, including that race at Turfway in early March where she didn't break, she got shuffled back, she came widest, and she was moving late.
Yeah, I respect the fact that she seems pretty versatile as far as surface goes. I think you're right to not want to hold the only 2 turf starts so far. I don't think you want to hold those races against her. You mentioned the big price try against way better horses. They went 5 furlongs with her, and she actually didn't run terribly in that turf race last summer. And she actually ran a really nice race 2 starts back going long on dirt, Dan. So there are ways to make a case for her at a price.
Carol Girl is the number 8. This horse made her first start off the Mikey Gorham claim last time out at Pimlico. She chased a legitimate pace that day and tired. I think that was a pretty decent group. The horse that was on the lead that day finished 4th, came back to win a $16,000 claimer at Parks with a 68 buyer. She's going to be close to the pace. Her dirt form 2 starts back, that was a pretty good performance when she sat just off of the lead. Curious to see if she can do it on the turf.
Yeah, she's got a couple of good, really good dirt races relatively recently, Dan. She also has really good turf form. If you go all the way back to early last year when she was in Southern California, I mean, those races would give her a real chance in here too. She didn't run, very well last time, I didn't think, but man, this seems like a pretty significant class drop. The horse that won that turf race last time, that horse is good.
My Super Sally's the number 9, and she's a big price, but maybe if she gets the right setup, she can sort of sneak into the number. Her last race was at Pimlico sprinting on the dirt. I thought that track just favored all speed, and with this horse's running style, she really didn't have much of a chance, but she passed a couple of tired horses in the stretch to finish 3rd. It was her first race off of a short layoff. The problems are fairly obvious, however. Is turf her best surface, and is this actually going to be her best distance?
Yeah, many questions surrounding this mare in this race, Dan. She's just going to have to run the best race of her life to even be close at the end of this race. She's never run one that's really going to put her in the picture, I don't think.
Bryson Butterfly takes the mount for trainer Christine Claggett. Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Saratoga and Del Mar right around the corner. Don't miss a video. Click that subscribe button. Top pick time for our Wednesday race of the day. We're both going to go with the horse with some upside. I think this horse has tactical speed. We like the gameness she showed last time out, and she's seeking her 4th consecutive turf win. It's the 2 Brahma Gem.
Yeah, well, see, I feel like she could be a decent price in here, Dan, if only because she just doesn't really have figures. Some of her main rivals in here just have run faster races than she has. So maybe that'll lead to a decent price. I really liked her last race.
She'll be tested for class as she steps up out of the condition ranks, but as Mike mentioned, that might help her price. 2341 for Mike, 2153 for me for your Wednesday DRF race of the day. It's at Delaware Park. Good luck.